right, hi guys. Let's get into week 3 now of our learning from home. I hope you guys are doing well. I just want to remind you to, reach out to me if you need anything, if you have questions, if you just need to let me know something. I'm available in email and remind text. And on Fridays, we have the optional Google Hangout, which is the video chat. So if you have any questions from the week, you can jump on there and just ask me questions, or if you just want to talk, that's totally fine too. So anyways, I hope you guys are doing well. Please reach out to me if you need anything. I don't know how much longer we're going to be having to do this, but we're just going to play it week to week and play it by ear. And every week that we're at home, I'm obviously going to be posting a video and a homework assignment. So we'll just keep rolling with this for now while we can. But where we're at now is on the third type of transformation out of 4. Okay, the 4 that I told you we were going to do is translation, reflection, rotation, and then dilation. So we are 3/4 of the way through this whole transformation unit, which involves a lot of graphing. So it was kind of poor timing for us to be doing school from home, because I know it's hard to do graphing from home, especially when you're watching a video. But with that being said, I've kind of condensed my rotations notes and assignment, because this particular type of transformation, I wish I could have done with you guys in class, because I would give you this extra material called patty paper. I don't know if you saw it sitting on my notes table, but it was a green box with these squares of transparent paper that you could trace shapes on, and you could actually turn the patty paper on your notes paper and you could see the shape being rotated. So the fact that you guys probably don't have that at your house, I don't even have it here at my house. We're just gonna go with what the rules are for rotations, and then hopefully, whenever we get back to school, I can show you the rotations with a patty paper. I think it's much easier to see them that way. But again, we can't really do that from home watching videos. So I'm just going to give you the rules, how to change the points when you rotate a shape, because a rotation means to turn. Okay, you can either turn the shape, as we'll write down here, to the left or to the right. So let's write down these notes, copy these on your own paper, make sure that you're sending me pictures or you're uploading them on Google Classroom, both your notes and your assignment. Not just your homework, not just your notes. You have to send me both if you want credit for both. So these are our notes, week 3. You can title these rotations, but make sure you have these statements copied down. Don't just write down what I write in these blank spaces, because it will not make sense later on when you're reading these. So a rotation, like I said, is a turn. All right, you're going to take a shape, turn it on the paper, and you can turn that one of 2 ways. Clockwise, which I'm going to abbreviate with C, or counterclockwise. All right, so clockwise is going to be turning to the right. Okay, think of a clock. We call it clockwise because that's how the hands on a clock move. They move to the right. Okay, counterclockwise is going to be turning a shape to the left. Okay, so those are our 2 directions, right or left. Now rotation, since we do these ideally on a graph, you can turn the shape left or right, but then you can also turn it a certain number of quadrants. Okay, on a graph, you have 4 quadrants. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so each of these quadrants is a turn of 90 degrees, because right here in the middle, we have 90-degree angles. Okay, so one turn is 90 degrees. If we go from here and then we turn the shape up to here, that's a full 90-degree turn. So one quadrant is going to be 90 degrees. So you might be asked to rotate a shape 90 degrees. You might be asked to rotate a shape 180 degrees. And then it increases from 90 if you couldn't tell, or by 90. So 3 quadrants going through 3 parts of the graph would be a 270-degree turn, and then all through all 4, all the way around, that's a 360-degree turn. Okay? So the characteristics of rotations. What happens to a shape when it's rotated? Well, the orientation is not preserved. Now, orientation means the way something's facing. So to compare this to maybe your seats in a classroom, okay? Your orientation, especially in my room, is to the front. You're facing the front of the room, but each of you at your own desks has a different location. Each of you have a different spot in the room. Orientation is you all facing the front. So you guys have the same orientation when you're sitting in my classroom. So when you turn a shape, if I were to rotate your desks, you would not preserve orientation. Preserve means to keep the same. Okay, if you rotate a shape, unless you're rotating it all the way around 360 degrees, if you rotate a shape, it's going to be facing a different way. Okay, the congruence, remember, congruence means the same size. Okay, if two things are congruent, they're the same size. Now, when you rotate a shape, your congruence is preserved. Okay, the congruence is kept the same because you're not changing the size of the shape at all. Okay, we call the, pre-image is the first shape. So before you do anything to a shape, before you transform it at all, we call that the pre-image. And then the image is the second shape. All right, so when we rotate, we're changing the way that it's facing, but we're not changing its size. Okay, so if you need to copy down any of these statements still and catch up, just pause the video. I'm going to switch my papers, but you could be doing this on obviously the same piece of notes paper. Okay, let's talk about these rules so that when you get your homework assignment, you won't be able to have the patty paper that I mentioned where you trace a shape and then you turn it on your own paper. We're just going to have to do the rules. Okay, the rules, you'll probably like them anyways because they're shortcuts to where you don't have to actually graph the shape and then turn it and then graph it again. These rules are just going to get you the new points no matter what the rotation is. Okay, so I'm going to move my paper to this one. Now this is where we're going to write down the rules for both directions. I've got the clockwise and the counterclockwise direction on here. Now ideally, if we would have been in class, we would have started with this 1 point. All right, these notes just had 1 point on a graph and we would have rotated it these 3 different amounts. Okay, so we would have rotated it 90, 180, 270, and then 360 would put it right back where it started. But I'm just going to give you the rules so that when you're doing your homework assignment, like I said, you can just change the points based on what these rules are. Okay, so if you are rotating clockwise, remember clockwise means to the right. Okay, I give you a shape, you're going to turn it. So if this is my pencil sharpener, if this was a shape that you were rotating clockwise, you would be turning it to the right. Okay, clockwise would be taking a shape and turning it to the left. All right, the other way. Now, when you are rotating in the clockwise direction, and you're given a point to rotate, or maybe multiple points, if you're only moving at 90 degrees, well, you would just have to switch the numbers. Okay, switch their spot. Remember, every point starts off as X, Y. So for a 90-degree clockwise rotation, you switch the numbers around and you change the sign on X. Okay, I point this out because by writing this as a negative in our notes, this doesn't mean that you just make the second number negative. It means you change the sign, whether it was negative or positive. So if this was a negative number, you would change it to positive. Okay, so that's for 90 degrees clockwise. 180 degrees clockwise, you don't switch their spots, but you change both of their signs. Okay, so if the point was 1, 1, and you rotated it 180 degrees, it would be -1, -1. All right, you just change their sign. For a 270-degree rotation, you switch their spots, okay, just like you did for 90, except this time you change the sign on the number that ends up here, the Y. All right, the number that was second, but now it's first. Okay, so those are our clockwise rules. Let's put down in our notes the counterclockwise rules. Okay, they're very, very similar to these, and actually 2 of them are exactly the same. So for a 90-degree counterclockwise is turning a shape to the left on a graph. 90 degrees to the left would change the number spots and then flip the sign on the Y. Okay, that's barely different from this one. We switch their spots, but we change the sign on the X. For the counterclockwise direction, you would change the sign on the Y. Now for 180 degrees to the left, that actually ends up being the same exact rule as 180 clockwise. So for a 180 degree rotation, it does not matter whether you turn it to the right or to the left, because it's going to end up in the same exact spot. You just change the sign on X and Y. Okay, last one, 270 degree rotation to the left. Here's what you do. You switch the number spots. So now the Y is first and the X is second, and you change the sign on the X. Okay, this will work. These 6 things that you just wrote down, these will work for every counterclockwise and clockwise rotation. So when I give you your homework problems, use these rules to help you figure out the new points. And that way you won't have to graph them, okay? You'll just have to write down what the new points are and just use these rules. Every single point has to be given this rule change. Okay, so if I give you a homework problem that asks you to rotate maybe a triangle, okay, well, a triangle would have 3 points. So if you're rotating 3 points, let's say 90 degrees to the right, well, you're going to have to give me 3 new points. Okay, if this shape was turned 90 degrees to the right, all 3 of the points would be in new spots. Okay, so make sure you pay attention to how many points you're given, and then give me the new points after it's turned. Okay, so these are the rules for rotations. I'm going to stop the video here and post your homework questions. Make sure you copy down all 6 of the rules, not just 3, and then get your homework questions done, use the rules, and send me pictures of what you have done or upload them to Google Classroom.